It's the silence after the sound, you know, to integrate the lessons that you received while you were here in the Andes. We need that coming back, you know, to coming back to our own space, to our own silence. And that's a beautiful thing to understand when we practice this in our lives. We can move, we can do so many things, we can work, we can travel, we can sound is a symbol. Sound refers when you are in that active mode, you know, and silence is when you come back to your to your space, the space that you feel more welcome, more comfortable, and then you can integrate all this movement to you. That's what I refer with silence. Be sound, be silent.
I love that. You know, when I was in the Andes, because I live in Florida, which does not have mountains where I live, I kept drinking in the Andes, and to me, although it is with another sense organ, it was like the sound of music. You know, because I was drinking the whole atmosphere, and then when I came back here. I sense the Andes with me always. I don't feel as if I'm in a place without mountains. So I think in that silence, or even in the absence of the presence of the mountains, they are still there. So in a way, what you're talking about sound, I'm also sensing it with other frequencies and the other sense organs that we have. I wanted to ask you, have you always lived in Peru?
I born in Peru and I think I spent up to my 23, 22 while I decided just to take one gap year and travel the world, try to experience all different cultures and try to find different music. I'm musician by trade, like I learned how to play the guitar and the bass and yeah, I wanted just to keep learning about music. That year became almost 10 years trotting, you know, going from there to here, and more extreme traveling, you know, not just by bus, start doing with the bicycle, start walking, start going to treks to mountains around. So that sense gave me this identity to try to find different sounds, but I never knew that I could use that in order to to create an idea in people, you know? Yeah, well, pandemic was a huge teacher in this sense because the pandemic it opened something, you know, it opened my need of comforting, and the only friend that I have in that time it was my handpan that I just bought it. So to learn how to play it myself, it was a meditation, an active meditation, because I was in a desert and I understood the power that those frequencies, that vibration has on me. So it could apply for anyone, you know. I came back to Peru and yeah, in Peru, I discovered that sound in many traditions around the world is part of the rituals, is part of everything, you know. So I started studying it properly in 2021.
Oh, okay. So where were you? What was the desert in which you learned, in which you started to play the handpan?
It was the Nullarbor Desert. That's between Adelaide and Perth in Australia. So if you see the map, it's kind of a huge extension that there is nothing around, not even animals, you know. It's really desertic place. And because of the pandemic, I went there to work. And yeah, I didn't lose my job, but I didn't have anyone, you know. My friends, they were working the morning shift. I have the night shift. So yeah, I sleep in the during the day and the few hours I have of light, I use it to learn the handpan. It was powerful because yeah, you know, in deserts, if you can refer environments, ocean is a calming energy, mountains is a nourish energy, forests. You can think about all planes that they have life, but desert is so dry, is so dead, is so isolated that everything that you didn't really work out in your life comes back, you know? So memories, past, ghost, everything started coming and stronger and stronger. So as I was alone, you don't have anything to talk, anyone to talk, I mean. Yeah, that integration was very powerful to me to understand myself, to understand the pace. And again, the handpan was such a beautiful friend to connect with those ideas in an harmonic way.
Wow, that's really beautiful because the way you're describing it, it's not as if the sound and the silence were separate, but almost as if they were integrated. Because as you were playing, you were going into your own inner silence.
My maestro is Tito La Rosa, and it's funny how I met him because yeah, I always hear his music. He is such a powerful maestro here in the Sacred Valley, and yeah, I wanted to go to the Tibet actually, because in my conception, the sound healing come from the Tibetans, with the Tibetan singing bowls and stuff like that. So I thought that would be where the maestros are, but I never knew that we have maestros here actually in the Andes. And it was funny because in a gallery we have in Cusco, Tito just entered one day, like normal person walking visiting on Sunday afternoon, and it's when we became friends. And ever since I started learning that. Tito once told me that everything in the universe has a mother. We all start from something, from some portal. And the sound as well has a portal to start everything, and that starting is the silence. So the mother of sound is silence. They never go one without the other.
Beautiful. The mother of sound is silence. Yes, it appears from there. I
Mhm.
really love that.
Yeah, and when the sounds finish, we come back to silence. So it's a cycle thing. All the time is repeating that. That's why I was saying, in order to connect with something you want to do, something we want to create, our artistic part, our work, everything to integrate in an harmonic thing, it's important the silence. And we are learning that from holistic traditions around the world. Meditation, yoga, spaces with nature. Yeah, I can mention many, but silence is always the predominant in this one. So I can understand why. Then you stand up, you go on with life, and then comes easier in an harmonic way, whatever understanding that we want to do. That's the call. Start sounding.
So, what other countries did you go to?
Oh, I can refer that at continents. Yeah, the only one that I miss is the Arctic, the Antarctic continents, because yeah, I travel in Asia, I travel in Europe, I travel in Africa, in Oceanic, and of course in America. The countries maybe that I can refer mostly to that question is where I live for a while, and it was Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Argentina, and Peru. Mhm.
Well, I remember when we were walking to the waterfall that you said you've also been to India. Did you do any music classes, or did you teach or learn anything about music there?
Um, in that time, which was 2015, I was not into the holistic things. Maybe something was awakening on me, like we all gonna have this awakening. Doesn't matter in this life on in time. But I was feeling the awakening in India. And before in Southeast Asia, maybe in Thailand, in that. But when I was actually in India, it was more like a traveler per se, a backpacker looking for adventures and looking for mountains and stuff. My experience with sounds in India is like, yeah, the singing bowls, the metals they use, the singing, the chanting they have, according to the Hinduism. And yeah, that awakes something. It's for sure that when I passed through India, something was awakened because India is very mental crash, as I told you in that walk of hours. Everything just change. If you think you know something in India, change all those concepts somewhat. And it was beautiful because yeah, maybe that was the awakening without knowing, because that comes with time, with more silence, more experience, and more integration of us. Yeah.
I'm just feeling as you're talking that maybe the different sounds, because India is where you have been were mostly, I guess, noisy and like you said, clash. Maybe that was actually the beginning of silence, because sometimes when you're in a lot of sound around you, you're forced to retreat into that inner silence.